Welcome to the Oh My Gosh, You're Glowing podcast, a space where the root of bio-individual energetics is exposed and glowing from the inside out becomes inevitable. I'm your host, Lindsey Walker, former IT software developer turned multidimensional healer and founder of Soul Fam Wellness. This podcast is for healers, light workers, new earth leaders, and conscious women, aka awakened luminaries, who are lighting your own path forward, allergic to band-aid fixes, and respect the deep inner work. Every week, I bring you raw and honest conversations to activate your unique soul codes, supporting your grounded ascension. This is where multidimensional healing becomes a roadmap back to your soul. Because let's be real, living your entire life on a constant healing journey was never the goal anyways. You probably already know what time it is if you are watching this on video on either Spotify or YouTube, because the hat always means something. So I am here for the 2026 Tucson Gem Show update, or recap, really. It's already over. It's been a few weeks. But we're here for the recap of the Tucson Gem Show, everything that went down, all the experiences, all the lessons. I'm so excited to bring you today's episode because if you have heard me talk about the Gem Show in the past, it is truly this expansive portal that I take myself through every year, and it's been happening for the last 4 years. So that's going to be today's episode. Before we get into all the juicy details, all the juicy lessons, and all the experiences that I had this year, I wanted to first off thank all of you, thank all of my listeners for being here with me, because just the other day I found out by happenstance, I just went to go check, I don't know, for the heck of it, and saw that the Oh My Gosh, You're Glowing podcast is, as of recently, I don't know when this happened, but as of recently, it is a top 10% global ranked podcast, which is absolutely wild, absolutely insane to me. So I'm just so grateful that you all have made this a top 10% global ranked podcast. And I'm I don't even know what to say except that I'm just super excited. This literally came out of nowhere. Feels like it happened overnight in the absolute best way possible. And if you're like, how did you do it? How did it happen? It's a great question. I kind of have no idea. Intuition and magic is my answer because honestly, I didn't have a podcast strategy necessarily when I relaunched this podcast, a month ago or so. I think this is going to be week 4 when this episode comes out. If I have my math correct, I think this is going to be week 4 of the what I would call podcast relaunch, because obviously I started this back at the end of 2024, took a few months off, about 5 months, and then restarted it here in 2026. And the intention for the podcast since restarting it in 2026, about a month ago, has been a combination of consistency, of making sure to show up every single week, posting an episode every Tuesday, and then having some bonus episodes. You've probably seen the community readings that I've been doing as well. And those are some intuitive readings for you all, where I read the energy of the Ascension Forest. And honestly, besides that, it's just been to have fun, to, yes, keep consistency, but just to really show up and have fun. And yes, on more of a consistent basis, because before I was doing the same thing where I was just like riffing, but I would do it like maybe once a month, twice a month, I don't know, take a few months off. It was just kind of everywhere. It was here, there, everywhere. And now that I have more of this consistency, and then I, create an intro and an outro. So I don't know, all of that combined, I suppose, has led to a top 10% global podcast, which is fucking wild. And I'm so excited and so grateful. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for being a listener. Thank you so much for sharing this with your friends and your family and whoever you have shared this with, because the messages that are here every single time that before I get on an episode, whether I'm doing a solo or a guest, I sit and I create this sacred space and I send a message out to the universe and code these episodes with, saying magnetize this episode and allow the people that are meant to hear these messages to see this episode, to press play, to hear it, to be here. And so if you're here, there's no coincidence. This is really your soul giving you messages through me. So I'm happy you're here. With this, I have decided to give you all some opportunities to deepen in your own transformation, deepen in your own healing. And so you'll see all the details in the show notes below for what I'm about to mention. But all podcast listeners now get 5% off my two programs that I have, the two pre recorded programs that I have, which is Grounded by the Light and the Inner Fire Immersion, which are my absolute favorite programs. They are truly incredible. When I sit down and watch them myself, I realize how much wisdom is truly being channeled through me in those. And so Grounded by the Light is for really the root chakra. That's what the inspiration was, through the root chakra, and also your nervous system, or what I call your light system. So there's more details below on that. And then Inner Fire Immersion is more focused on the solar plexus. The liver is really big in that program. And this is more for really transforming and harnessing your inner fire. And so right now with the Fire Horse Energy, this program in particular is gold, actual gold. And so to celebrate the podcast being a top 10% global ranked podcast, until the end of February 2026, so until February 28th at 11:59 p.m. Central Time, the Inner Fire Immersion is going to actually be 10% off if you use the code TOP10POD. That is TOP10POD. So you can use that for the Inner Fire Immersion for 10% off to really harness this fire energy that we have that is so much in the collective. And, if it's untamed and just kind of out there and everywhere, it might feel overwhelming, but the Inner Fire Immersion really helps you to alchemize and harness that energy within you to use it for your highest and greatest good. So all of that information is in the show notes if that resonates with you. And just thank you all again for being here. All right, so let's get into today's episode, all about the Tucson Gem Show. If you don't know, this is my 4th year going to the Tucson Gem Show. I am actually originally from Tucson, Arizona. That is where I was born and raised, grew up, spent lots of time in Tucson, and actually did go to the Gem Show when I was little. I actually have a few stones. I have a bunch of stones sitting on my desk, and some of them are from when I was really little, when my mom would take us to the convention center, and they would have little kids corner where we would put all of our stones in these egg cartons. We would get to pick from this whole pile of stones, and they actually had some really good ones, because some of the ones I have from when I was really little are really incredible. Now I use them for some of my healing sessions and crystal grids. So that is super fun. But I've been going for years. And then as an adult, started going back and going with my mom 4 years ago. So that was 2022? No, 23. 23, I think, was my first year back as an adult. And so I've been going for the past 4 years, and we then kind of picked up my aunt as well. She has joined the Gem Show Fun, the Gem Show Party, and it has truly been an experience every single year. If you heard me talk in my last episode, I was telling my hairdresser about it, and I was saying every single year is just this crazy, wild experience, this awakening, it's literally just 5 days of lessons. And she was reflecting back to me that yeah, you're expecting that, you're open to that. And certainly, so I'm bringing those lessons to you all because I'm so tuned into these little subtle energies and these little subtle lessons as I'm walking myself through the Gem Show. And basically, this is just an entire massive place to, yes, purchase gems and minerals and stones and crystals, but it is this melting pot of people from all over the world, vendors, healers, geologists, anyone who is remotely interested in gemstones and crystals. There's jewelry makers from all walks of life, jewelry makers, there's healers, there's people that are there who are miners who have actually mined the rock and stone. There are people there just selling it. There's people there purchasing it to use for healing. There's people there purchasing it to cut for jewelry. There's jewelry makers there selling it. I mean, you can find all the way from the roughest raw stones all the way up to the highest quality diamonds, gems, jewelry possible in the world. These people are from absolutely everywhere. It is the craziest, wildest time. Yes, I know that there are gem shows everywhere, but Tucson is the largest gem show in the entire world, and it's not just one place, like, it's all around the city. It's off the highway, you have to know where to go, you have to know the good places, and my mom is a wonderful stone medicine woman, and I'm very grateful that she knows exactly where to go. We've now met and created some great relationships with the really high quality people there. So I'm very grateful to have her as my guide. And now we go together as a little group. So it's really fun because I was thinking about this. I actually took notes for this episode because when I was thinking about the whole gem show, I could just sit here and tell you like how it went. And I think that's what I did last year. There's a podcast last year from the 2025 gem show. And from what I remember, I kind of just like went through how the whole week went, which was a great way to do it last year. And then this year, I just felt like I really wanted to hone in on some certain lessons and experiences that happened. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. If you want to see some visuals, video, pictures of things I bought or things I saw, I'm working on finishing. By the time this episode comes out, it should be done. But if you go to my Instagram stories at I am Lindsey Walker, then there's going to be a highlight that says Gem Show 26. And that's where all of my story highlights from the Gem Show will be. So I'm still recapping. They've been a little delayed because I just wanted to be super present. That's why I started doing these podcast episodes about the Gem Show so I could be super present in the moment, in the experience, and then do my recap and all my lessons later. So that's what I'm doing in the stories right now. So you can go watch those and I'll save them in the highlight for you as well. But as I was reflecting, I realized it's been a really cool experience to not only close out the astrological year, but then starting off the beginning of the calendar year with this gem show every year because it's given me this point of reflection every year. You know, whenever you go back to a very like the same spot, not even similar, but you go back to the same spot, or every time you go home from where you're from, your childhood, whenever you have a constant point of focus that you can go back to and you go back often, like every year or every 6 months, or there's something where like you've allowed yourself to shift and change, and then you can go back and you have this point of focus to then go reflect, you really notice the shifts and changes because your external reality, like where you're at, is very similar. So, like for me, this has become the gem show where there's a specific event. There's a usual way that we go about it. Like we get up every morning, make our breakfast, make our cacao, like, go off to whatever show we're going to that day. And so the day's cadence feel very similar, but now you are doing this every single year. And so it's just this way to notice how much things have shifted and changed over the year. And it's just been a really great reflection point. And this year has been, I mean, I think every year honestly I've been able to watch myself change and reflect back so clearly because I really have this point of reference. So I will say though, what one of the things that this particular gem show taught me and really showed me was that because I travel by myself, my husband has yet to go with me. I'm trying to get him there. 1 year. 1 year he'll come with me. But generally speaking, I do travel by myself for these. And it really showed me how much traveling does stress my body, especially when I'm by myself. Because when I'm with my husband or when we travel with my parents, it feels like I can spread the energy out between all of us and that I don't feel like I'm having to take on a lot of the collective energy. Yes, I know there's people around us, but it's like there's a level of trust and a level of, I don't know, who's in my close energy field that I recognized how much I feel the collective energy, how much I feel the EMFs and the radiation, and how much it really is a lot for my system, even with protection, to the point where I was actually wearing this hat because since last year, this is now the gem show hat. People at the gem show actually know me by this hat. So it has to show up every year, even though it's like kind of a pain in the ass to travel with, but worth it. And I was sitting at my gate waiting to get on the airplane and my body was full of heat. Like I was just feeling all of the heat of the collective in my body and it couldn't escape my head because I was wearing this hat and I had to take off the hat because I was like, I cannot do this. I cannot function. I cannot feel anything. Well, I was feeling everything except heat and nothing could escape. And there was just at that time, I mean, there's still a lot of heat, but at the time it was like kind of the heat was coming in. This was before the fire horse year came in. This was before Saturn went into Aries, but it was like it was upon us. And there was just collectively a lot of heat from things in the media. It was even like it was the second day that Southwest had their new seating arrangement, and there was arguing going on in the gate next to me. And so, yeah, my body felt it. So I will say I'm working on, I don't know, I feel like I'm going to have to put together some new type of travel protocol because, I do my specific energetic protections and I wear, certain crystals and things like that for protection. But when I'm by myself, it just feels like there needs to be another level. So stay tuned. I will be figuring that out. Haven't traveled yet since then. So, but just if you are someone that feels like traveling is really stressful for your body, you're not alone. And this happened when I traveled there and traveled home. All the days in between, I was completely fine. And it just felt like the level of inflammation in my body revved up to a level that was completely unimaginable both days. And even the day that I was traveling back home, we left super early, like a 7 a.m. flight. So we were up pretty early. And my body was literally like I woke up inflamed. It was like, oh, we're traveling today. I feel everything. So TBD on how to travel without feeling like I have swallowed a ball of fire. But you're not alone if you're feeling everything while traveling, just so you know. And with all this, like I said, I wear all my crystals and stones, and I was wearing this hat. And it was so interesting. So I go through TSA. I like refuse the little face scanner. Not that they probably don't already have my face scan, but I figured like I'm going to use my ability to say no. So I did. And then I go through the TSA scanner because I have the pre-check. And I went off. I set the metal detector off like every single time. No matter how many pieces of clothing I removed, it just kept setting it off. It was like luckily the TSA agents were super nice that day, which thank God, because normally they're not. You're usually like, pissed off. I must have gotten a good crew, thank goodness. And he was like, okay, give me your hat, give me your this, like take off your jacket. And I was like taking off literally everything. I'm like, dude, I have nothing else to take off. Like I'm now at base layer clothing. I have nothing. And I was still setting off the metal detector. He's like, I don't know what else to do. He's like, you got to go through the scanner. I was like, no, I'm not doing that. That's full of radiation. He's like, okay, well, you have to do a pat down. I was like, okay. Luckily, I got a really nice lady, but I will say in the past, I would have absolutely freaked out, especially by myself. And I just use that moment to stay really grounded and peaceful, even though I was requesting like more butt pain for them. I was requesting like one, I set off the scanner, and then two, I was requesting to do something that, wasn't the easiest for them. And luckily, I was met with some really pleasant people in a stressful situation, or what could have been a stressful situation. It was just kind of odd, and it kind of just really validated all the energy that I was not only feeling in my body, but feeling in the collective. And it kind of just like, it was almost like the machine was picking it up. And I was like, oh, I'm like too high vibe for the machine. I was like joking with myself. But that was the start of my gem show experience. And I just felt like, shit, what's going to happen now? Like, I always watch when I'm traveling. Like I watch for signs, I watch for patterns, I watch for things that feel out of the ordinary. This was obviously out of the ordinary, so I just like watch them and like pick up on them. And this was really it was kind of like one showing me I think how much energy was in my body to the point where like I was setting off the metal detector, not even like what I was wearing. And also just how much I've shifted because I used to be so on edge to the point where like something like that would have set me off immediately and I would have gotten pissed off, freaked out, panic attack, just like lost my shit. And instead just realized, okay, this is happening. This is incredibly not what I wanted to have happen. This is incredibly, there's a word I'm looking for. This really happens a lot where I just like, there's a word I want, it's not there. inconvenient. It was inconvenient for me to just like not walk on through, but also just not blowing everything out of proportion and knowing that like I think also just knowing I had that knowing that there was so much energy already going on in my body in the collective, and I was picking up on it, and it was like, okay, this is happening. Just roll with it. Like just move through it. There's nothing wrong. No one is, no one's bad. Nothing's bad. You're not going to get in trouble. But here's the other funny thing that I was like, thank God for trusting my intuition. So with this particular story, the reason why I was actually able to stay calmer than I could have been in a very different situation was that when I was packing, now last year I brought my microdosing mushrooms, the psilocybin mushrooms, with me to microdose at the gem show. I had just started them and I felt very called to do so. And now I still microdose, not as frequently as I did, but I still do it. But when I was packing for the gem show, I kind of looked at them and I was like, should I bring them this year? And I just got a really clear no. Like, no, you don't need them. No, this year doesn't want that experience. And so I didn't pack them. I didn't bring them. And normally I put them in my carry-on so I have them with me. Now, no one has ever been stopped from what I have been told by TSA for having them, but technically, the whole legalities of them are wishy-washy, especially in Texas. And I thought about, holy shit, if I would have gotten pulled from the scanner or like my bags would have gotten pulled or whatever, and I knew I had those in there, I would have lost my shit. I would have like really freaked out and had this, oh God, what's happening to me? Or like, I like feel like I did something bad, or I have something that you could find kind of energy. And so just one of the many reasons I'm glad I listened to my intuition. It was like, no, you don't need those this time. And I was like, I feel like that was why. And when I thought about it, when I had that intuitive hit of like, don't bring them, I was like, there's a reason. Not only do I just not need them this year for the experience, it's like not what my body and soul want, but I'm like, I just knew. I was like, there's another reason I'm not supposed to bring these. And I didn't know why. And then I went through TSA and I was like, this is why. So when things don't make sense, listen to your intuition. I promise you'll be so much better off. Now, I really wanted to bring attention to this hat again this time, because if you don't know, I got this hat in Nashville, actually. Here, so if you're watching video, see the full hat? Yeah. So I custom designed it in Nashville in 2024. Yeah, in the fall of 2024. And last year, if you heard me talk on this Gem Show recap podcast, the 2025 version, I had this whole dilemma about wearing the hat, of not bringing the hat, of like calling too much attention to myself. It was like a whole thing. And then this year I was like, of course I'm wearing the hat. Like, of course I'm bringing the hat. It's like my Gem Show look now. Like it has become the look. If you have like this hat and then I have this like Aztec looking jacket, like those are my Gem Show outfits. And I found it so interesting this year that I felt like last year the hat was wearing me. And then this year I was wearing the hat. Like it was this addition. It was an actual accessory. It wasn't like I was trying to fit myself in it. And that was just one of the many validations of how much my identity has shifted internally to how I feel about wearing something on my head on the outside. In fact, so many of the vendors actually recognize me because of this hat. And they're like, oh, yeah, I remember you. I remember that hat. It's so cool. And so it's just like another way to, I don't know, just one, it helped build connections with people that I only see once a year. But also, it just really showed me like how much I have expanded, energetically speaking, into someone that doesn't feel like I'm trying to hide, but like stand out at the same time. Like before, I felt like my energy was a little distorted where I'm like wearing this really loud hat and I get lots of compliments on it. But then before, I was like trying to stay small and like not be seen. And so this energy of just being seen in all of me really got reflected in how I felt when I was wearing this hat. So that was a fun experience. I will say I didn't love wearing the hat when there was so much heat going on, but it's fine. We survived. That's always That's always a good idea. Custom made hats. Highly recommend. So when I first got there to the gem show, my mom was a gem of a human and actually got me in with one of her favorite healers, lymphatic massage therapists. And I've met this one before, but I was actually able to receive a healing from her the first morning of the gem show, like before we even went to any of the vendors. And I'm here to tell you every gem show should start off with a healing because oh my gosh, she was like, "You need to be grounded." I was like, "Yeah, lady, I was flying yesterday." Like, yes, I grounded myself that night. And in fact, if you someone shared this with me about when you're traveling and grounding, and this is a tip if you haven't heard, highly recommend. So, when you get to wherever you're going, yes, do all your cleansing and protection protocols energetically, but then when you're doing your grounding cord or grounding roots, like I imagine actual roots, like I say, like roots of a tree is what I say to imagine. But when you're traveling somewhere, you've moved locations. When you do the grounding cord, imagine your roots or your grounding cord being picked up from wherever you were and then like picking them up, taking them out of the soil, out of the dirt, and then grounding them back into where you're at, like physically, location wise, state, country, wherever you've moved to, so that your energy can reground and it'll help you with like realigning to the time zone. Now, granted, I only moved one time zone, but still that can help with just grounding into the new circadian rhythm that you're in. And it can also help just reground your body into the new area that you're in or new location that you're in. So I even did all that, but of course, with obviously like the whole saga I just told you about flying and traveling, like my body was feeling it. So she did a lot of grounding work and then she was like, "Oh, is your stomach has your stomach been inflamed?" I was like, "Yes, my whole digestive system was extremely inflamed from traveling yesterday." So she did a lot of work on that. And it just felt so good to receive. It felt so good to receive from someone in person. I've shared this before, but I'm very picky, I guess, about who works on me energetically because I know that whoever I let into my energy field affects me. And so I don't let anyone just do sessions on me. And that could seem snobby. That's fine. But I'm just really protective of my energy field. And so I've met this woman, I've known her for a while, and my mom works with her. And she's like one of those underground people. She doesn't have social media. She doesn't even have a smartphone. You can barely get a hold of her. You know, she's one of like the OG healers that you could only find through reference or referral, which is super fun. And she's just such a good time. And it was fun because I just had to show up and she just did her thing. And, you know, it really got me thinking about wanting to do in-person healing sessions myself. I don't necessarily have a space for that yet, but I just really loved being able to step into her space, step into her healing space and just receive. And I felt like it really just grounded me and set the foundation for the whole week ahead. So highly recommend in-person healing. You know, like I said, I don't have someone necessarily where I live right now. Maybe I'll find someone. Maybe it'll be me. I don't know. And it doesn't have to be necessarily in person, but for me, in person for the gem show was a fun treat because I do so much virtually. But virtual is great too. So, have you heard me talk about what I was focusing on manifesting in January? You'll know that I was focusing on being known, and that was a soul manifestation. My soul actually, I tapped into my soul of like, what is the thing that wants to be manifest? Like, what is the energy that wants to really be focused on, like to bring into my reality? And that was to be known. Well, I experienced my manifestation of being known at the gem show. It was actually crazy, wild, so fun. And when I realized it was one of those things where I was like, here's the validation. Here is the confirmation. Like, you want to know, like, is it quote unquote working? Like, it's fucking working. And It was like, one, I've been building these relationships with some of these vendors for the past few years now, but it just felt like we would walk into a place and, like, they would just know who we were. They would remember us from past years. They knew who we were. They recognized us. It just felt like we were going to see old friends or, like, going to see friends that we hadn't seen in a year versus talking to a bunch of strangers. And I think definitely the hat helps for sure. Give, like, some recognition, but just also energetically, like, people remembering us, like, knowing who we were, and so that was just, like, a fun experience to be in person, and people were like, "Oh my gosh, I remember you from last year," and just yeah, feeling like old friends. So that was a fun way to experience my manifestation from all of the energy healing sessions I had been doing on myself for about a month, and then seeing them come to fruition. And the other thing that I really felt while being there that was new was that I felt like I belonged. And why this is so important is I was no longer telling myself, I recognize I was no longer telling myself a story in my head that I shouldn't be there, that I shouldn't be buying wholesale, or that my business wasn't good enough to be there, or, because I don't necessarily sell products or sell crystals or sell gems or sell any of these things because a lot of people that are there are retailers buying wholesale to either buy and then sell directly, buy and make some kind of art piece out of them, buy and make jewelry out of them. There's a lot of product retailers that go to the gem show to purchase for their year. And so for a long time, I didn't feel like I belonged because I wasn't that. I was going for other reasons. I was going for a combination of business and personal. Business because I work with the stones in my healing sessions. I build crystal grids with them, but then also personally because I need to protect myself. And so I've really gravitated to using crystals and stones in multiple ways to protect my energy field, to protect my office, to protect our home, to utilize stones to, and I've started learning a little bit from a stone medicine woman named or a stone medicine practitioner named Sarah Thomas, and I haven't learned nearly as much as my mom has. She has taken a million other classes, and my mom is a true stone medicine woman, but I have learned a little bit. And what I've really learned and what I've really felt with the stones is that they are working with me as I'm doing my intuitive work. And so it feels like I'm being supported in another way, and it doesn't feel like I have to hold everything. It doesn't feel like all of the energy ends up falling on me. It feels like I'm being supported by the stones, and that's really why I use them. People use them for all kinds of reasons. But anyways, I just felt when I was walking around, specifically I noticed it at this one quartz crystal vendor. It's our favorite quartz crystal vendor. They're from Brazil. They are Brazilians. They're so fun, and they have the best high quality, ethically sourced, non-heat treated stones, lots of quartz. And I noticed this specifically when I was walking around there because some of the vendors to get wholesale, you have to share your like business license or business information. Some of them will just give you wholesale. It just kind of depends. And that one in particular has, you have to share your business information to purchase wholesale. And so a few years ago, actually, someone had told me, and there was no guarantee that what she said was correct information, but it got in my head to the point where it had created this belief. And what she told me was, or she had said it to my mom, she was saying, like, I don't know if her business license will work because it's not registered in Arizona, or she thought it wouldn't work because I don't sell products. Like sometimes you have to have a resale license to purchase wholesale. There are places where it's like resale license only and we can't get in. But I felt like I didn't belong because she was like, "Oh, your business license might not work, so you can use mine instead." And the years passed, and even like last year we used my business license. Like they don't require resale. But it was like that belief that got put on me. Not she wasn't intentionally trying to do it, she was just making sure that she wanted to make sure we got wholesale pricing. And so but it was, like, this belief that ended up getting put on me of, like it kinda felt like, "Oh, your business isn't good enough. Like, you're not good enough to shop here." And over the past year, my identity in my business and just in my life has really, really shifted. And I was walking around, it was actually the very first place we walked into, and I was walking around looking at stones and crystals, and I realized I just felt this new sense of confidence and belonging that came from within me. And it was the exact same location, it was the exact same people as last time, and all of a sudden, I felt like I could be my true authentic self and just enjoy being there. They remembered me from my hat and everything, and I think last year, I felt like I was trying to hide from them. I was trying to, like, make myself and them feel like I was worthy of buying things there. And this year, I walked in knowing I was meant to be there, knowing I had confidence to be there, didn't not feeling like I was less than or my business was less than or just that I didn't belong. And I could feel that energy just like ripple out across the entire week to the point where before I used to be in this proving energy of I felt like I had to prove that I was worthy of being there, of worthy of purchasing whatever I was buying. And this time it was really, I wasn't trying to prove anything to anyone. It was, I could just be myself. I could just have conversations. I could let go of any kind of worry or tension or like trying to put on this performance or this facade. And I felt like I was just so much more of myself. And there was so much more connection with people. And I just enjoyed being present in the moment so much more because I didn't feel like I was trying to put on a show or trying to be someone I wasn't. And that honestly felt so freeing. And where it came from was just anchoring into the identity of I am a business owner. I am an energy healer. I am meant to be here. I don't need to prove to anyone that I belong. Okay, cool. You take my business license and I'll get wholesale. Great. You don't take it. Great. I'm not going to buy here or, whatever. It doesn't matter. It no longer, it no longer had this like really tight grip on me anymore. And that felt like the biggest fresh air that I could have ever experienced. Like, literally, as I think about it, I just feel like I can, like, breathe so much deeper. And so, with this particular lesson, like, if you feel like there's places that and you're, like, putting these rules on yourself of, like, "Oh, I don't belong." No one told you that, you just feel like that. What I realized and recognized over the years is you'll only belong if you decide you belong. Like, if you want to hang out with this group of friends or these group of people, they'll be attracted to you because you feel like you belong with them. If you're waiting for them to, like, invite you in or to say you're worthy to be with them, then it's never gonna happen because there's just no resonance there. And so while, yes, in the past, I would still go to the gem show and I would still buy from these people, there was always this like weird disconnect where like this time I had no problem asking questions or clarification or just like having fun with these people. Or there was no, oh, let me like pretend like I have these clients that I'm buying for or something. Like, no, I'm fucking buying them for myself. Like, does it matter what I'm using this for? No, you don't care. I'm giving you money. Like, they don't give a shit. And it just felt like I got to drop like layer, a whole protective layer that I was putting on for no damn reason. So if you're doing that in your own life in any way, drop it. You belong, decide you belong, and automatically you will resonate with those people, with that group, with that room, whatever it is. So the next lesson that came up from the gem show this year was so I brought this is like the only place on planet Earth that still wants cash. It's actually really hilarious. You see all the coffee shops, all these restaurants everywhere saying, "We're cashless now, we're cashless now," like, whatever. This is not the time to talk about cash or my opinion about cash. But apparently the gem show still loves cash. Yeah, because they probably don't write it off and put it on their taxes, and I don't blame them. I don't blame them. But I did bring some cash with me. I, like, found some in my sock drawer. I was like, "Sweet." I tend to this is the story of, like, me manifesting money in, like, the strangest ways. I just, like this is what I have to remember. Just find it in random ways. So sometimes you can just find money when you need it. This is what I need to remind myself. This is why I'm telling you this. I have to remind myself this too. Anyways, so I brought cash with me and I would try to use it sparingly only with the people that were requiring cash so that if there was someone that would take a card, then I would use that. Anyways, there was the day that I was really close to running out of cash. I don't remember what day it was. And we stopped at the ATM because someone else in the car needed cash too. And I sat there as someone else was getting cash and I was like, I could get cash out of the machine. I probably should. I don't have much left. And then I just had like a very clear, don't worry, you'll be supported, just trust. Like that was the message that came through in my head. I was like, and just to like not take any out. And I'm like, I mean, okay. I mean, I guess. And so that was the message that came through. And here I am thinking, well, I don't have much cash in my wallet, and there are people that require cash. So I'm not really sure what I'm going to do about that, but I'm being told not to do it. So okay, we'll just move on with my life. And I didn't get any out. So the next day, I wake up and do the group reading for the Ascension Forest outside in my parents' backyard, actually forgetting that it was the full moon that day. I was quote unquote supposed to, as in like Lindsey's rules that Lindsey made up in her own head. I was supposed to do the group reading for the Ascension Forest actually on my travel day because I do them every Wednesday. But as you heard from my travel day, there was so much inflammation going on. I was like, guys, my body is like not well. Like doing this reading is not happening today. And so I kept trying to find time to do this reading for them. And it just like wasn't happening. I was tired. We go all day long and then, want to hang out in the evenings. And I just like kept kicking the can down the road. Finally, I actually did the reading. Like I sat there and really meditated on the energy of the Ascension Forest. Like randomly one morning at like 7 a.m. I was sitting there and I put my eye cups on, which I'll show you and talk to you about in a minute. But I had some eye cups already, put those on, sat there and meditated, focused on their energy and like wrote down all of the messages. But then I didn't have time to actually like record the message that morning. So I did it the next morning. Again, serendipitously happened on the full moon. So like everything happens for a reason. Everything happens when it's supposed to, even if it doesn't happen on your logical watch of like when you set these deadlines. So another reminder, even if you set your own deadline and it didn't happen, it happened when it was supposed to happen. So I wake up, I'm like, finally do this reading. I go sit outside and like just enjoy the sun and like hearing the waterfall in the background and the birds chirping. It was literally just like the perfect setting. And it was just amazing. My mom and my aunt were doing like wellness day that day because we all had realized we hadn't had a lot of sleep. We had been going every single day. And we were like, we need to take care of our physical vessels. So like they're doing the sauna. And I think my mom did like meditation or her sananga. I'm not sure what she did. I was like putting castor oil on, well, not putting on, but I was like showing my aunt how to put the castor oil pack on her liver. And then she was trying out the sauna. And so they're doing all of this stuff for their body. And I'm like, okay, my version of wellness day is me sitting down and doing this reading. Because I've told you guys before, when I do this work, when I sit down and podcast and talk, when I do readings, when I do healings, when I'm guiding a breathwork session, that is supportive for my body. So I'm like, okay, I know my wellness day requires me to do this reading. So I went and did that in the backyard. So then we end up going back to Gary's, which I think at this point we had been to him. This was like the third time we had been to him. We went on day one that was like right after we got there. He was like our first stop. He's the one who sells the Euphorolite and Alienite. And I think this was this had to be the third time we were there. I don't know. We were there another time too. I don't recall which day. We were there like every single day. Anyways, So we go back to Gary's because my aunt wants to buy more eye cups from him, which, okay, this is why you have to watch these on video, either on Spotify or YouTube, because I show you fun things from the Gem Show. So if you're not watching, go watch. Okay, so I actually bought a bunch of these, and I'm going to tell you why. So we went back for more eye cups. He made these Euphorolite eye cups. So here is some of them. Let me see if I can show you. Here's a rare golden. I think this one is Storm. And so you literally put them like on your eyes, like this. I would normally have two, but I'm holding them. And you use them. The intention is like for meditation, for breath work, for whatever you want to use them for. And so they're all different kinds. So if you don't know, there's multiple kinds of Euphorolite. So that's why they're different colors. They have like different minerals in them. I'll show you a few more. I have some blue ones, but they're in my bedroom, so sorry you won't be able to see those. But see, they're like rounded, shaped like this. So you can put them on your eyes. I've been showing them on my Instagram. You'll see them on the Gem Show highlights because I've been meditating and doing breath work with them. Anyways, they have been so fun. In fact, a lot of the mornings when I wake up and my eyes just like feel really heavy or I don't know, really irritated, I'll wake up and just put them on my eyes for like, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes. I'll do my meditation. I did breath work with them the other day and I have, okay, look at how cool this is. So I have my branded eye masks. Yes, if you ever come to any of my events, you get a branded eye mask. And so they actually perfectly fit. He started using these and I was like, dude, I have so many of these. And so they fit perfectly inside the eye mask. You put the Euphorolite cups over your eyes, put the eye mask on, you can do some meditation and breath work. And then for the light sensitive people like me, it doesn't impact your session. Okay, so those are the fun Euphorolite eye cups, which, just wait, we're getting to those. So anyways, we go back. I wanted to show you what they were because they were just like the hit of this year. He had them last year, but he ran out by the time me and my mom got there. So we weren't able to buy any. So this year we were able to get some. So we went back. I had already purchased my lot of alienite, of Euphorolite, which, dang it. I think one of my favorite pieces of alienite, I think, is in the other room. I usually get some carved beings every year, and one of them that I got, I think, is cleansing and charging in a pot in my bedroom. But this is one of them. This is the alienite, one of the carvings. And then here's one of the towers that has like some cool carvings in them that he did. Those are fun. I got not a ton, quite a bit though, because this community tests for alienite so much. Let's see, wait, I got a triangle too. Unfortunately, you won't be able to see one of my favorite beings because she's in the other room. But this is one of the triangles that I got. Okay. But this community really tests for alienite quite often, and it's because it's very cosmic, but it's also super grounding. And a lot of people who come to me are very cosmic star beings, but you have a hard time grounding in your body. And so the alienite really supports the grounding and being here in your human body, but still feeling like you have a connection to the cosmos and not feeling like you're being totally stripped away. All right, I digress. Anyways, I had already purchased my loot of alienite and Euphorolite this year. And when we go back for my aunt, I find another pair of eye cups. It was actually one of the ones I showed you, I forget. I don't know. They're really cool though. Oh, Gaia is what they're called. I can't find them. Okay, yeah. And I also have them in this like fun little basket now. They're a good time. Yeah, these ones, Gaia. Oh, they're so pretty. So fun. So I was not planning on buying more, but I was like, oh man, I really want those ones. And so I was like showing my aunt different eye cups, and I like didn't show her those ones. I had them in my hand. I was like, no, you can't have these. So anyways, I find another pair of eye cups, not planning on buying any more stuff from him, but I I was like, "Oh man, I really want those." So I just go ahead. I was like, "Okay, just one more pair." And so I buy them with a card because remember how the story started is that I didn't grab more cash. So I was like, I don't have cash for these, but he'll take a card. And so I purchased it with a card and I start telling him why I'm buying so many eye cups because he's like, "Didn't you just buy a bunch the other day?" And I was like, "Yeah, but they're not all for me." Like, yes, currently I'm rotating through them all, but I was like, "They're not just for me." Like, yes, they're for my husband, but I was like, and I was telling him why I was buying so many eye cups for group events. And I was telling him like, "Yeah, I really want to use them for group events where I do energy healings and meditation and breath work, and it's just this whole transformation healing experience." So I just like am telling him this whole story. I told him, like I used to do some in-person group events in the past, and I basically was replicating what my breathwork teacher had taught me to do, and it just didn't feel like mine, and so I stopped doing them. But then I told him, I was like, "No, I really feel called to do them again and also, host retreats and things like that." So a lot of in-person work. And I was like, I just feel like when they come back, like it's going to be so much more of like my energy of my creation, not repeating someone else's. In fact, the integration event, what I call the embodiment retreat last September that I did in Denver was like kind of my beta test, like trial run for that type of event. And it went so perfectly. The energy felt absolutely incredible. The women that were there know, if you're listening to this, they know that it was like beyond words. And so that structure of events, I'm going to be doing again. I don't know when, I don't know where, and I'm putting it out into the universe that I would love a space to really collaborate with because all the spaces I collaborated with in the past went south. And not because me, it was just because I don't want to work with those type of people anymore. And I want to work with people who really see the value in collaborating and not just being a space that someone rents out. So, anyways, we're putting it out there in the universe for more collaboration of in-person group events and also for them to be small and intimate. So I'm telling him this whole story, this whole saga of why I'm buying like 50,000 eye cups. He's like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And so he's listening to me and he asked me, he's like, "Okay, so you're going to do these again?" And I was like, "Yeah. I don't know when, but yes." And he's like, "Okay, I have something that I want to give you." And he's like, "Will you accept it?" Before he shows me what it is. And I say yes. And he's like, "Okay." He's like, "Gonna give it to you. You don't say anything. You just accept it." I'm like, "Okay, great." And, oftentimes, like, when you're buying things, he'll be like, "Oh, pick out like a little triangle or pick out this," or, he just like, he's very tapped in. He's very intuitive. He'll just kind of, it just happens sometimes. Like, I don't know. So I'm like, "Okay, cool." Like he wants to give me something. Like, great. I'm in receiving mode. I'm here to receive. And he walks over to the Euphoria table and he picks up. I saw it like out of the corner of my eye before he picked it up. And I was like, "No way." He picks up one of the largest star being carvings on the whole table and hands it to me. Granted, this thing is worth thousands just in weight. I have no idea like how much it would actually be sold for, but thousands. And he said to me he's being told that this being wants to work with me, this stone. And he said he's got the whole galaxy in them and he tells me to put this stone up at the front at the beginning of my events so everyone can see him, introduce him, and to work with him in my events. And he said he'll help me harmonize the energy of the room, bring it into coherence. And he says that this was gifted. I mean, he didn't say this, but like this ended up being gifted on the full moon. So, okay, so again, if you're watching this, I'm going to show you the stone. And I have yet to really work with him yet. That's coming. I will. I feel like he just wanted to kind of be in my space for right now. In fact, as crazy as this story might sound, he doesn't have a very strong base because he's, like, kind of skinny at the bottom, so to speak, and I put him, like, on my desk, but, like, leaning towards the back wall so that he wouldn't fall over, and I, like, put him at a 90 degrees so he's, like, facing directly out, and, like, since I put him there, he has literally on his own shifted to a whole 45 degrees towards my computer. It's kind of wild. But anyways, this is the being in the Euphoria light that I will be working with at my group events going forward. So I'm going to be connecting with him very soon. But as you can see, he's like literally the size of my hand. And yeah, this was honestly the craziest gift I've ever received. Ever. Definitely ever at the gem show. Let's try and put him back. I think he wants to be at a 45. Oh no. Okay, I'm gonna have to put him back later so he doesn't fall over because he's really heavy. Anyways, so he says the guy who mines the euphorite and the alienite, he also does the carvings. And he says when he's carving these beings, like you'll see, like I have another, this is an alienite carving. It's like what is it? A Lyrian, I think, a Lyrian being. So he does these carvings intuitively, and he says when he's carving these beings, he'll start out, and then he says when he gets about halfway done, he feels a being go into the stone. Beings of light, not negative, bad, dark, none of that crap. And his theory is that once the being feels that there's enough familiarity in what he's carving, like in the physical stone, that they enter the stone based on a frequency match, and then he's automatically guided by the being inside the stone to finish the rest of the carving. And he feels like, and we've heard him say this before, where his hands are just moving, but it doesn't feel like it's him, and it feels like they're kind of helping to create the stone or what it looks like. So the reason why I shared that entire story is that I set aside this worry of money, of having enough money, of having enough cash on hand. And I went in not necessarily planning on buying anything that day from him and was like, no, I'm really called to these eye cups. And because I bought another pair of eye cups and didn't feel like, oh, I don't have any money, like I can't buy it. I just decided, okay, I'm going to pay for it in a different way. And I was very divinely guided to do it, even though I had already purchased a bunch more. Like, logically speaking, I didn't need another pair of eye cups. I didn't need to purchase anything more. And logically, I was like, oh, I don't have any more cash. Like, stop buying things. But I was like, no, I feel really guided. And because I let go of feeling like I needed enough cash and then still followed through with purchasing something, even though it logically didn't make sense, somehow it like put me through this portal to be gifted this giant being for my events. And he was like joking when we were leaving. He's like, tell your husband you gave me $6,000 for it. I'm like, okay. He'll like lose his fucking mind. And that's also not true. But it just felt like, okay, when you let go of trying to control and when you let go of logically explaining your way into decision making, you open yourself up to the path that is just being guided for you. So I'm really excited, not only for future events, because I know how impactful and transformational and how powerful they are, but just to have this gift moving forward of, being able to use the eye cups, which are super fun and super cool. I went and bought a bunch of palm stones for people to use. And then just having, this other layer to really work with the energy, because I know I've done enough group events in the past where not only protection between the people, but then the coherence of the whole energy is super, super important. And so it's like it builds on the fact of like, I was open to receive. That relationship has been created. We love going back to see him. He has incredible incredible stones, and he's just, fun to hang out with. He's a good time. It was just all of that. I wasn't looking for something. I wasn't looking to be gifted something. I wasn't searching. I was just sharing my intentions and sharing what's real and true. And because I had that true confident energy in me that I shared earlier, I could just have these conversations and not try to expect or feel like I was trying to get anything. So I was really excited to share that for it to happen. And I am still like in shock and in awe and yeah, excited to work with him. So stay tuned on where that goes. I don't know. And that was the other lesson that I feel like I've harped on multiple times, but what I realized is relationships create abundance because that was one gift that I received from one particular vendor. But I was actually gifted so much this year from just authentic, genuine relationships that I've built over the years, vendors that we go back to every single year. And that it's again, not that I'm trying to look for free things or I'm not looking for a handout, but it's just like it feels like this relationship, like I'm coming back every year. I trust you. I love your products. I love your stuff. I love who you are. And so it was just this genuine connection and relationships that are creating these abundance. And it just felt like, I was being able to receive back from these relationships. And it would just be things out of the blue of like, here, we're going to give this to you. We're going to give this to you. And I realized I'd rather buy from someone who's kind and passionate about their work, and that's who gets my business, than these like creepy weirdos who are just there to purchase something. I don't care if you have the highest quality crystal, the best stuff in the entire place. If you're weird and creepy and are not connected to your work and don't want to talk to me and have no interest in creating any type of relationship and are just there to sell, I'm not buying from you. Like, I don't care. It's the people, like, there's people that will just sit in the back of their booth and not say a damn thing. And it just feels like they don't even care that you're there. Versus the people that, even if they don't speak great English, they're up at the front of the booth. They're telling you about all of their stuff. They're telling you about all their products. They're telling you how they made it. They're telling you how they found it. There's like, they want to build this connection and this relationship with you. That's who I'm gravitated towards. That's who gets my business every single time. And then that's who are the people who I go back to every year. Those are the people I send people to. When they say, hey, I'm going to the gem show, who do I go to? You're on that list. If you're in the back of the booth, you're not on my fucking list. So the people that are genuinely passionate and interested in being there, you notice it, you feel it. And the people that are creepy, weird, or avoidant, not interested. So not interested. Now, another lesson this year, a big one for me, was discernment. And when you are at the gem show and there are crystals and gems and rocks and people everywhere, there's a lot of energy. You can do all kinds of protection. You can wear protection. You can do all kinds of shit, but there's just a lot of energy to work through. But what I learned was learning to recognize, do I just like something and think it's pretty, or am I really drawn to it for an unexplainable reason? Because okay, you're at the gem show, everyone there is making their most prized art, or even if they're not making art, they're bringing art from the earth. So everything there is absolutely beautiful. So I realized I would just look at something and I'd be like, wow, I love that. Let me buy it. And then I get home and I'd be like, not that I don't love this, but like, why did I buy this? And also recognizing if my mom and my aunt were buying something or someone with us, did I really want to buy it too? Or was I just buying it because they liked it? Because I would oftentimes pick up like, both of them would be buying something and like one would like it and then the other one would like it and they'd be like, oh, this is so cool. And like, I know that my mom always finds the good stuff. Like she has an incredible eye. If you looked at my stories on Instagram, I showed you some of the stones that we were finding. And oftentimes I think I was listening to one of the videos and someone was like, Lisa, you always find the best things. She really always does. She's the one that like picks out the things from like far away that is the coolest thing, the most authentic thing, like the one thing that you won't find anywhere else, and she's going to find it somehow, some way. She's really good though about knowing if it's for her or not. She's also getting better at discernment. I think previous years she Maybe it was not, but she's worked through that. So it was just an opportunity for me to recognize, okay, if everyone in my group is like buying a certain stone, do I really want it? Like, are they showing me something that I wouldn't have seen without them? Or am I just liking it because they like it and now I'm picking up on their energy? And then another layer to this was it was like really putting on one lens when I was buying stones to work with versus putting on a different lens if I was buying something to wear it or if I wanted to put it in my house, for, so to speak. And what I realized, what I learned is if I looked through the same lens for all three of those scenarios, I would end up with things that weren't necessarily in my highest alignment because they were purchased through the wrong lens. So I would have to look at things and be like, okay, is this something that I would wear? If so, like, let me put on that lens and make sure it actually goes with my coloring and my clothes and like things that I wear. If it is a color that I never wear and I am buying it to wear, don't fucking buy it. You're not gonna wear it. In fact, I have like one or two pendants from previous years where I just loved the stone and it's been sitting there and I don't wear it very often because I don't wear those colors. And so it's like, know yourself. Or if I was looking at something for the house, I really had to put on like our house colors or like what room it would go in. Okay, does this make sense? Does this match? If I was just working with it, color didn't really matter. It just meant, okay, am I really drawn to and gravitated towards this certain crystal or stone to work with, and is it coming forward for healing purposes? So I really had to work through like putting on these different lenses because in the past I would just be like, oh my gosh, that's beautiful. Oh my gosh, that's so pretty. Let me get this. Let me get that. And not that any of those purchases were bad. Like, let me tell you, I have yet to ever regret a gem show purchase, but it was just recognizing like what is the energy that I'm cultivating in my life and is this supporting that specific lens or not? So there is layers and lenses to discernment that I realized and I was able to really practice that this year. Not to say that I, was great at it, but you know, worked through it, got to practice. And with this, like oftentimes I'm not looking for something. Like, when people are like, "Oh, what are you going to the gem show for?" Like, what are you looking for? I'm like, nothing. Comes back with a full suitcase full of rocks. True story. And that's like the best part. Like that's the most fun. Like things just find me. In fact, my water bottle I got this year, if you guys don't know, if you've probably seen in most videos that I'm in, or if you've ever been in my programs, if you've ever been on a video or a Zoom call with me and you've seen me drink water, it's 99.9% of the time out of one of these, which is from VitaJewel. It is the only water bottle I use minus my hydro flask that I take to the gym, but I dump structured water from my VitaJewel water bottle into my hydro flask for the gym just because this is glass and we don't want to break this. So I usually keep these in places that there aren't like equipment to potentially break it. But anyways, so we were at the VitaJewel tent, I guess. And we were talking with her and things like that. And I was like, I just don't need another gem pod. I have like so many. And I just was like, nope, don't need any more. Don't need any more. And my mom was like really drawn to a new one. She was looking at all their new ones that they had. And I was standing there and she was, Chelsea, who's at the vendor table. She was like, oh, like which ones do you like? And I was like, oh, they're really nice. Like I don't need any. And I was just like, oh, for fun, like let me like muscle test to see like which one I'm drawn to. Because again, when the energy is hot and high, sometimes I'll use my pendulum just to kind of help me out. And so I was like, they had these new ones that had a bunch of gold flakes in them, which I love the ones with gold flakes. It just feels very high vibe. And I have a few from years past. And I was like, oh, I would love one with the gold flakes in them. And I was testing. It was like, no. I'm like, whatever. And they had this one sitting there. And I was like, what's that one? And she's like, oh, it's called Focus. And she's like, yeah, they use it for kids with like ADHD. And I'm like, makes sense. I mean, if you see it, it's like very colorful. I forget exactly what's in there, but I think it's like jasper. I think there's aventurine actually, labradorite, and there's a few others. I just don't recall exactly what the whole blend is. But she was like, oh yeah, that's such a fun one. And my mom's like, yeah, it looks like a kid's one. I'm like, okay, well, whatever. But I was just really drawn to it. Like, even if I just kind of scanned the whole pillar, like their setup of pods, I don't know, there was no logical reason. I wasn't looking for anything. I didn't need another one. I was just like, "Oh, I really like that one. That's pretty." Even though logically I was like, "I want one with the gold flecks in it." And my body was like, "That's nice. Don't care." And so I ended up getting this one. She was like, "Do you want this one?" I was like, "Okay." Like, she's like, "It's our last one. Like, we don't have any more." I was like, "Yeah, I just want the pod. Like, I don't need the whole bottle." And then she realized, she's like, "No, it's our last one. Like, I'm just gonna give you the bottle." Another just like gifting of things. So I ended up actually getting the whole bottle with the pod without having to necessarily pay for the whole thing, which was beautiful. And then, so not only did I end up with the pod, but I ended up with a full bottle as a gift. And when I got it home, so I hadn't tried it yet. Now, some people think this is crazy. Some people will understand. I'm guessing if you're here, you'll probably understand. Maybe not. But different stone blends of water taste differently. Yes, I'm serious. And the one I had been using, it was like for calming, and I don't know, it was blue. I'd been really drawn to blue lately, so I was drinking out of it. And but it was tasting okay, like not great. And so when I got home, I washed this out and put my water in here, and the water tasted so good immediately. And it was so clear to me why it spoke to me. It literally, the water tastes so much better than my other pods. Right now, currently in the season that I'm in, where my energy body is at, who I am today, it is like my favorite water. Probably need some after talking so much. But it is literally my favorite water. I can tell a difference. I can taste a difference. It just feels, I don't know, it just like feels like it's in resonance with my body. And the funny thing is, I've been wanting to focus more in my current season of life. And now I'm putting that frequency into my body every single day, and my taste buds can actually tell a difference. So, yes, even when you are not necessarily looking for things, I was like setting out the intention of, oh, I want to focus more, because sometimes I can get a little, I don't know, off track, especially like business wise. And so I've wanted to like really be more committed. And this energy has been really supportive in that. And I can actually taste it, which has been so fun. So also VitaJoule water bottles, 100%. The only ones I will drink out of. If you see the ones that have, okay, this is also, like, so my husband uses one. It's called the King water bottle. Of course, I have a Queen. I just haven't used it in a while. But anyways, he'll sometimes bring it to work with him. And one of his coworkers was like, "Oh, well, are the gems not touching the water? Because if you can see the gem pod down at the bottom, it's filled with water, and then the stones are inside the pod, and then you pour your water on top of it. So it structures the water from inside. But no, the stones are not touching the water you drink. In fact, I would not want to drink water from anything that stones have touched. And there are knockoffs, like cheap ones, where they just stick one single stone, like a tower stone inside. The cheap knockoff ones just have like a stone inside. And you do pour your water in, and then there's no pot at the bottom, but it's just like the water's touching the actual stone. You don't necessarily want to be drinking the water directly touching the stone, depending on what stone it is, because then sometimes you'll get the actual reserves from the stone, like the minerals, and they're not always safe to drink. Like sometimes there's blood and I don't know, some other things in there. And now your body is not just drinking the structure from the crystal or the stone, but it's drinking the actual mineral composites of it, and that is not always necessarily a good thing. In fact, that can sometimes be overwhelming, or dare I say harmful to your body. So no, the knockoffs and the ones that are actually touching the water are not better. It just makes sense for the people's minds who feel like they need to be so tangible, they need to fucking touch it. No, this is energetic. This is good enough. In fact, it's better. So don't buy the knockoffs. So each year, I usually am drawn to a specific color. Like I notice a trend that I'm drawn to colors, or I just will pick up certain stones. I was really drawn to malachite this year. I picked up like every single jasper I saw. What else? Those are the 2 like trend-wise crystals or like stones. But the one thing that wasn't stone specific related that I noticed was this year, I noticed rainbow flares or like the rainbow aura caught my attention more than anything in different stones and crystals. In fact, I'm gonna see if I can show you. I bought some Vogel crystals for energy work. And let's see if you can see this one. I purposely picked, oh, that's a good one. You can see it's so good. You have to watch some video. If you're not, you're missing out. Okay, but if you see that rainbow aura, let's see. Oh gosh. Okay. I got a really good one. Oh yeah. Half the reason I picked this one was because that rainbow aura just like stuck out to me so strongly. Okay, that one. And then this one, let's see if we can find it. This is another Vogel from our favorite Brazilians that I was telling you about earlier. Okay, I know this one's like somewhere around here. This one might be harder to see on camera. We're gonna try. We're gonna try. But you saw it in the other one, so. Oh, there's one, like right there. It's so much easier to see this one in person, like the little rainbow aura. Okay. But you get my point. Catch my drift. I saw this rainbow aura in so many crystals, so many stones. And I was thinking, like, this aura, this color, this rainbow effect has been here this whole time. All these years I've gone. And I've seen it before, but it wasn't like it drew me in. Like this time, it drew me in. It like really feels like there's an important energy that wants to get my attention. I'm not fully sure of the entire message yet, so TBD. But so much so that I literally picked up and was, like, noticing the, like, rainbow aura on my Yeti cup that is plastic the other day. So, there's something about this rainbow aura energy that is really wanting to get my attention right now. So, I'm gonna be focusing on that pretty soon or just, you know, in my work moving forward to see like what else. It feels like this is like I'll notice that I'll get like an initial kind of spark towards something or like notice something that I never noticed before. Like my paradigm will shift. All of a sudden I'll notice something that I didn't notice before. And it's not like it's brand new. It's just all of a sudden my eyes became attuned to it. And so that's what this feels like for me. So we'll see what comes of this. But I also just noticed this year, and this has happened a little bit in the past, but this year in particular, our days were just so effortlessly, divinely guided. Like there was no forcing, there was no pushing, there was no shoving, there was no rushing. It just felt like the universe was easily delivering to all 3 of us every day. And, part of the reason I stopped posting on Instagram on stories in the present moment of the the whole gem show experience and like the photos and videos and things like that. And I said, okay, I'll do a recap later when I get home, was because we were all just so present in the moment that I just didn't even want to be pulled away from my phone. It just didn't matter. It didn't feel like an importance to me. And it just allowed all of us to be so present with each other, with ourselves, with the experience. And this just felt like the most easeful year that we've ever had, and all of us were just, things were finding us that we weren't looking for, experiences and lessons were being brought to us, like, literally on a silver platter. People we were meeting, conversations we were having just seemed so effortless, and part of it, large part of it was because of how present all of us were, and I felt like that was just honestly the biggest gift that we could have ever been given. So it was cool. It was cool to experience. I will say at one point, I did buy something that, so back to like my whole like using specific lenses, and here's like how we were being so divinely guided, but also how important the lenses are. So at one point I did buy something that I liked the look of but as soon as I purchased it, I like walked away and I felt really weird. I was like, I don't feel like I was divinely guided to this, at least not for me. And I kind of felt like I had made a mistake. And I don't think I've ever necessarily felt that way. Like before I've been like, did I really need this? No, but I didn't feel like it was a mistake in buying it. I think also because I was using more discernment and I was practicing that muscle, that it was so much more clear to me in that moment of like, oh fuck, like that probably wasn't supposed to be purchased, but there's no returning. And so when I returned home or like when we got back to my parents' house that night, I was like, man, I just know this is not for me. Like I don't know who it's for because at this point it is in my hands, but it's not mine. And I bought it. So I told my mom about it that night and I was just like, yeah, I'll wake up in the morning and decide like what I do with it. But then the next morning she was like, "Oh, I think this is who it's for." Cuz I told her I was like, "I think I'm going to offer it to someone else." She's like, I was like, "But I'm not going to yet cuz I'm going to just like sit with it overnight and like see how I feel." She's like, "Okay." So we wake up the next morning and she's like, "Oh, I know who that thing is for." And she tells me. And I was like, "Okay." Okay. And literally we're sitting there, the two of us, as she says it, and we receive the clearest sign of validation that we needed. Like this person called in the like we were talking about this person and then they called. And I was like, "Well, fuck, that is the clearest message we could have ever received. Like, thank you so much." And and there's a reason I'm not saying like any details because it has now become a gift. And so I don't want this person to know about it. But it doesn't matter. You don't need the details. It's just the whole energy of the lesson. But anyways, so I received that clear sign of validation. My mom kind of was like, "Oh, let me use it." And I was like, "Wait, no, 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 like I need it too." So, that was a funny experience. She's like, "Oh, damn it." She's like, she thought she was helping herself. I'm like, "Thanks, you just helped me." She's like, "That's not what I was intending." I'm like, "Yeah, well, sorry." But anyways, then I was able to create this whole gift set for this person from that original purchase. And it came out in the moment, and it just felt like it was like a gift that ended up being a gift to give later. So, even though I kind of felt like, "Oh shit, I didn't listen to my intuition and like bought something that I didn't necessarily need or wasn't for me or shouldn't have," I was able to really discern and realize like, "Okay, I bought it. It showed up in my life. This isn't a total mistake, but it's not mine. So where is it going?" And really figure that out. So I'm really, really excited for that, even though it's probably the most vague story I've told you this whole time. Anyways, this whole journey, this whole experience, I receive lots of comments from vendors, from different people. And what I've learned is, some people think they can like tell you things that you didn't really ask for and you just go, okay, that's nice. And some people are giving you reflections. You kind of like take things with a grain of salt. But I kept getting comments from vendors about how protection needs to be such a priority for me because I have so much light in me. And at the time I was like, "Oh, damn, like you're right." But then I was actually sitting with this recently and I was like, I protected myself so much. And like I told you, I don't really let people into my energy easily. So I was like, not that their comments were wrong, but I don't believe they had a good read on me. In fact, this is why. Because during the gem show, every morning, I do my whole bubbling and protection practice, but I started adding an additional layer outside of my protection protocol in the morning. And it's specifically an extra layer of healing energy on the outside of all of my protection bubbles. In fact, I did it for this podcast episode as well and encoded this episode with that same energy. And I purposely put it there for anyone to take, or so that they're not taking my energy, but also so that like as I'm walking through any place that I'm like leaving this energy like as I'm walking through. So I'm just like I'm a cleansing, healing, you know, person as I'm like walking through any area. Like I'm purposefully like walking through and like leaving that energy. Like I think about, if you pour water into almost like a puzzle or something, and it's like the water's like flowing down a certain lane, like as I'm walking down a certain lane, like that energy is being like left behind on purpose. And I got this idea from my mom, who actually does the same thing with love frequency. And I really believe that each of us are meant to give and emit different frequencies, which is why I was called to the healing energy and she was more called to the love energy, because she started doing this because she felt like people were trying to take from her energy. And so instead of taking from her, she's like, okay, let me give extra on the outside for them to quote unquote take. And I really liked that perspective. And so I did the same thing with healing. So I purposefully was emitting this extra bright white light of healing on the outside of me that, again, people could take. So while this person and these people that made these comments were not wrong, because I definitely do need a lot of protection, I don't actually believe that they were picking up on the correct energetic read of like, oh, you don't have enough energetic protection, because the energy that I was emitting was bright white light on the outside. So that's the only energy I was allowing for people to pick up. And I heard someone say something about this recently, and I think that this is just really important to know because you can get unsolicited advice from anybody. Learning to discern who you listen to and who you don't is super important. And just assuming that someone says, "Oh, I'm an energy healer and, I know this, that, and the other about you, and let me tell you all the things that you need to be doing or aren't doing or should be doing," whatever the fuck they tell you, doesn't mean you have to listen and doesn't mean that they're picking up a clear read. So, this is just another reminder about discernment and why energetic protection is so important. Because if you're not opening yourself up to someone, they don't get access to your energy. Now, absolutely, like my energy could have been leaking a little bit or whatever. It doesn't really matter, but it's just also a reminder, if you don't want someone to have access to your energy, they won't. End of story. Don't listen, because I noticed after this person made this comment, one, I was already like energetically overstimulated. And it took me like an absurd amount of time to make a decision and like choose something. And it just felt like I allowed that person into my energy as soon as she made the comment, but she wasn't allowed in my energy before she made the comment. Like I actually did keep her out. And not that she's a bad person, because I've talked to her before. Like she's not bad. And she probably had, great intentions. That's not it. But I let her like get into my head a little bit and then was like allowed the overstimulation to affect me because of that, when I could have just been like, okay, thank you so much, like appreciate it. I don't allow anyone in my energy field to just like pick up things anyways, and I have this extra healing around me on purpose for you all to like take and pick up, so there's very much intention behind it. So one, if this is called to you, like if you're called to doing some type of thing where you add like an extra energy layer around you where it's purposely for people to take, that could be joy, that could be happiness, it could be healing, it could be love, the ones that I just used about my mom and myself. It could be anything that you feel like people really come to you for, instead of feeling like they're always pulling at your energy. What is the energy that people are gravitated to you for? And then add that on the external, so that you're basically that walking energy, but they're not coming after you necessarily. You're giving them what they want, but you're giving it to them in a way that they can take it. So the last thing that we actually did is that I absolutely loved. It was so much fun, and it was the best decision ever. It was a pain in the ass to do, but so fucking worth it. Is we actually unwrapped every single thing that we purchased. Usually I keep it all wrapped up and then just like stick it right in my suitcase and like wrap it all up nicely with like paper and bubble wrap and all this. But we sat there and unwrapped every single thing we got and charged it in the full snow moon in Leo that night. And again, this was like, I wasn't even really paying attention that it was a full moon that night. But all of a sudden we realized like my parents' backyard just like, it's so set up in a way that like the moon like travels right over it and it's so easy to put stuff out there. And so we just had this idea to like go outside and like charge all of our things, like clear and charge all of our purchases from the gem show in the Leo full moon. And I was like, this is the best idea ever. Not only did we get to cleanse and clear everything that we had just purchased from the gem show, which there's a shit ton of energy there. So they really needed to be cleansed. But with that super powerful Leo full moon, like right there. So then when I got home, like everything was already cleared and charged or cleared and recharged in that Leo full moon. So then I didn't have to like sit there and clear everything. That was like the best plan ever. It was so fun. I have pictures. They'll be up on my stories of like all of us charging our stuff in the full moon. We like had all of our stuff laid out. My mom obviously got like everything that she had, and we were just sitting there and like letting the moon just like soak up the energy, clearing it out. And that was probably one of our better decisions of the week, because I just got home and I was like, this is great. I just get to unwrap it and put it where it's supposed to be. So that is all of the lessons that I really wanted to focus on from this past year's gem show. Luckily, I was able to get my suitcase up and over the overhead bins. If you didn't listen to last year's, that's always a big deal too. The whole like suitcase power snatch into the overhead bins, because my bag is literally like, my carry-on is usually probably like the weight of my check bag. And watching people watch me lift this heavy ass suitcase overhead is always a sight. They're like, what do you got in there? I'm like, rocks. They're like, oh, okay. Interesting. So that's always quite the show. I've gotten super confident in my suitcase power snatches. Didn't think that would ever be a thing, but here we are. But as always, I just love reflecting on it. It has been such, like I said at the beginning, such a portal of change, such a portal of experience, and just like really locking in whatever identity I've alchemized in the past year. So thank you so much for being here and listening to all of my gem show lessons from 2026. Go enjoy all of my Instagram stories that are on the highlight at I am Lindsey Walker. They'll be saved at the top, Gem Show 26. So you can see all the videos and photos that I posted from this year as well in the recap. All right, everybody, that is all I have for you today. I am sending you all so much love. Thank you for being here. And I will see you in the next episode. Thank you all so much. Bye. Thank you so much for listening. I am incredibly grateful for your time and presence that you shared with me today. If you love this episode, be sure to follow and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And please share with a friend so we can continue to expand the light codes with our soul fam. If you're looking to transform your life from the inside out with multidimensional healing, see the show notes for more details on ways to work with me. See you next week for another episode of the Oh My Gosh, You're Glowing podcast.